My ex-wife cheated on me with my golden child brother and gave birth to his baby. A man by the name of Jack once had a stunning wife by the name of Rachel. They appear to have the ideal life together after being married for a number of years. But the most unexpected twist was going to turn Jack's life completely upside down. Jack first became aware of Rachel's altered conduct. Her demeanor was aloof and reticent, frequently offering justifications for her absence from him. Jack dismissed it at first, assuming Rachel was merely preoccupied with her work or going through a difficult time. But as time passed, he continued to sense that something wasn't quite right. Jack's suspicions were validated one day when he discovered many text messages on Rachel's phone. His own brother Mark was the sender of the amorous texts, which included preparations for a covert meeting. It was as though Jack had taken a hit to the belly. How could Rachel treat him in this way? Not less with his own brother. Jack made the decision to speak with Rachel about the messages because he was determined to get the truth. She first disputed everything, saying that the communications were benign and that Mark was only a buddy. However, Rachel eventually broke down and admitted to having an affair with Jack's brother when he pressed her for the truth. Jack was inconsolable. He was in shock at how cruelly both his own brother and wife had deceived him. He experienced shock, grief, and incredulity all at once. Even yet, Jack was aware that he had to act in his own best interests and that of his future. After giving it a lot of thought, Jack decided to file for divorce. He could not stay with someone who had so blatantly betrayed his confidence and ruined his marriage. However, Jack was reluctant to face Rachel in their cozy home. In order to give her the impression that he was serious about breaking up with her, he wanted to surprise her. So Jack thought of a scheme. At the most inconvenient time, he would surprise Rachel with divorce papers and expose the truth about her romance with his brother. Though he was aware that this would be the greatest betrayal, he also understood that it was essential to his own recovery and sense of closure. While Rachel persisted in her liaison with Mark, Jack discreetly collected all the requisite documentation and arranged for the serving of divorce papers onto her. His intention was to take her by surprise and make it clear to her that he would no longer put up with her dishonesty. The day of reckoning finally came. Jack waited to approach Rachel and Mark when they were together. Jack presented Rachel with divorce papers there and then, bearing a sad heart and a resolute spirit, confronted her about her affair. Rachel was taken aback. She was shocked that Jack had discovered her romance with his own brother, much less the fact that he was divorcing her as a result. Jack was tired of hearing her falsehoods, even if she made an effort to apologize and ask for forgiveness. Without her by his side, he had decided to go on with his life. Jack left, leaving Rachel and Mark to deal with the fallout from their actions as she tried to come to terms with what had actually transpired. While he was aware that starting again wouldn't be simple, he also believed that he should not have to put up with a wife who would cheat on him with his own brother. Jack concentrated on starting again and reconstructing his life in the days and weeks that followed. He found comfort in the affection and support of his friends and family, leaning on them for support. In order to deal with his feelings and get over the hurt of his broken marriage, he also sought out treatment. It was left to Rachel and Mark to handle the consequences of their affair in the interim. The burden of guilt and humiliation was straining their relationship, and they were unable to go ahead as a couple. Rachel spent many restless nights feeling regret and guilt since she was too late to comprehend the terrible consequences of her actions. But Jack didn't waver in his resolve to find contentment and calm in the midst of the chaos and heartbreak. He refused to settle for anything less because he believed that he deserved a spouse who would treat him with genuine love and respect. Jack eventually started to move on from his failed marriage and begin to recover from its scars. He concentrated on his work, his interests, and the things that made him happy and fulfilled. Even though Jack will always have the wounds of betrayal, he recognized that they made him stronger. As they considered the ramifications of their choices, Rachel and Mark had their own challenges to overcome. They came to understand the actual cost of their liaison and the suffering it had brought about for both Jack and themselves. Ultimately, Jack's choice to unexpectedly present Rachel with divorce papers marked a turning point in their lives. It signaled the conclusion of a chapter full of dishonesty and deception and the start of a fresh path toward recovery. Even though Jack knew he possessed the fortitude and resiliency to conquer any obstacles in his path, he approached the challenging road ahead with bravery and resolve. Seeing that he was now free to pursue his own happiness on his own terms, Jack felt hopeful and optimistic about the life that lied ahead. Jack encountered a spectrum of contradictory feelings as he proceeded on his path of recovery and self-discovery. He was relieved and liberated to be out of his toxic marriage and start a new chapter in his life on the one hand. However, he was unable to get over the hurt and betrayal he had suffered at the hands of both his brother and his ex-wife. Jack was aware that despite the chaos, he needed to remain committed to starting again and coming to a feeling of closure. He immersed himself in jobs and initiatives that both challenged and inspired him, throwing himself into his work. In addition, he turned to his friends and family for help, taking comfort in their steadfast love and support. Throughout it all, Jack's boyhood buddy Sarah was one person who never wavered. Since they were little, Jack had had Sarah's support, so she wasn't going to let him go through this trying period by himself. She offered consolation and confidence that Jack will come out of this experience stronger and wiser than before, as she listened tolerantly as he opened up to her. Sarah remarked, "You're doing the right thing, Jack," with compassion in her voice. "Ending your marriage was the best decision you could have made for yourself. You deserve someone who will love and respect you unconditionally, not someone who would betray your trust." Jack nodded, appreciative of Sarah's constant help. Even though he felt that divorcing his wife was the proper decision, the anguish remained intense. He couldn't help but wonder why his own brother would knowingly take part in such a betrayal, and how Rachel could have betrayed him in such a heartless and brutal manner. Jack began to turn to the common joys of life for comfort while he wrestled with these issues. He enjoyed taking lengthy strolls in the park, taking in the wonders of the natural world, and finding solace in the serenity that pervaded his surroundings. Along the way, he pursued his interests and hobbies, rediscovering the things that fulfilled him and gave him joy. However, Jack made every attempt to move on, but he was unable to get rid of the emptiness that persisted in the recesses of his psyche. He yearned to find someone to replace the emptiness in his heart, because he missed the intimacy and company he had enjoyed with Rachel. Jack made the decision to take a closer look into dating after Sarah encouraged him to do so. In an attempt to locate someone who matched his interests and beliefs, he made an online dating profile and began swiping through prospective matches. But Jack was unavoidably nervous and apprehensive as he made his way through the dating scene of today. He wasn't sure if he was ready to expose himself to the risk of suffering harm once more after having been burnt once, but believing that real love was worth the danger, Jack made the decision to take a chance and put himself out there with Sarah's encouragement and support. Subsequently, Jack encountered someone unexpectedly who made his heart skip a beat. Emma was her name, and she was not like any else he had ever met. Clever, humorous, and kind, Emma had a way of giving Jack a sense of recognition and understanding that he hadn't had in a long time. Jack and Emma clicked right away, and soon they were spending all of their free time together, chatting and joking like old friends. After feeling lost and shattered for years, Jack couldn't believe how fortunate he was to have discovered someone like Emma. Emma gave him a sense of aliveness once again. Jack couldn't help but feel appreciative of the surprising turn his life had taken as their connection grew. He had believed that being married to Rachel would be the end of his journey, but now he understood that it was only the start of a brand new chapter full with limitless prospects for development. With Emma at his side, Jack felt hopeful and optimistic about what was ahead. He was aware that he was at last moving on from the hurt and betrayal of his past and starting a new chapter in his life. And even though Jack knew he had finally discovered genuine love, he confronted the trials of the road ahead with courage and resolve. Jack saw that he was happier and more content than he had been in years as his connection with Emma grew. He was able to let go of the hurt and betrayal of his past and welcome the future with hope and optimism, thanks to Emma's love and support. Jack and Emma have a strong relationship based on mutual respect, trust, and open communication. They were honest with one another about their pasts and freely exchanged goals, dreams, and anxieties. How easily he could be himself around Emma astounded Jack, and he loved every second they spent together. However, Jack couldn't help but worry about what would happen to his brother Mark and ex-wife Rachel, even as he welcomed his newfound happiness with Emma. He couldn't help but feel sorry for them both, even though he had heard via the grapevine that they had chosen to remain together despite the consequences of their affair. He was aware that their relationship was based on deception and falsehoods, and he found it impossible to see how they might ever be able to trust one another again. However, he also found it impossible to feel any animosity against them. After all, he had moved on and hoped they would ultimately find their own way to recovery and atonement. Jack and Emma started discussing their future together as their bond grew. They talked of the prospect of one day becoming parents, purchasing a home together, and spending their senior years together. Knowing that Emma was the person he wanted to spend the rest of his life with, Jack was filled with joy and eagerness at the prospect of starting a life together. But even though their relationship was full of love and happiness, Jack was unable to get rid of the persistent sense of uncertainty that was always present in the back of his mind. He was afraid that the past would happen again, that Emma would betray him and cause him to lose heart the way Rachel did. Emma, however, didn't take long to comfort him, reiterating their mutual commitment and affection. She committed to being truthful and dependable to him at all times, and to value and honor their relationship in every manner. And Jack knew he could put his whole faith in her as he met her eyes and saw the honesty and love that shone back at him. Jack was able to let go of his anxieties and concerns and enjoy the present moment with joy and thankfulness, thanks to Emma's love and support. With the lady he loved at his side, he felt he was right where he was supposed to be. And Jack experienced a wave of calm as they strolled hand in hand into the twilight. He was aware that their journey ahead would be difficult, but he also knew that with Emma at his side, he could conquer any obstacle. Jack and Emma set off on a voyage full of love, joy, and boundless opportunities together. They exhibited bravery and tenacity in the face of adversity because they understood that their combined strength was greater than anything they could ever be. And Jack had a wave of thankfulness for his second opportunity at happiness as they turned to face the future. He was excited to see what experiences awaited him, since he knew that the best was still to come, especially with Emma at his side. Jack and Emma had their fair share of difficulties and roadblocks as they built their life together. They knew that they could withstand any storm together. Therefore, despite everything, they never wavered in their love and dedication to one another. A significant obstacle they encountered was Jack's continuous battle to completely forgive himself for the hurt and betrayal he had endured in his previous marriage. Even with Emma's unfailing love and support, Jack continued to be plagued by flashbacks of his brother Mark's betrayal of Rachel. He was plagued by a persistent sense of mistrust, wondering whether the past would repeat itself and if Emma would ultimately betray him in the same way that Rachel did. His history was always there to haunt him, no matter how hard he tried, and it was threatening to ruin his happiness with Emma. Perceiving Jack's internal struggle, Emma made every effort to convince him of her love and commitment. She gave him the space and time he needed to get over his previous injuries, since she was understanding and patient with him. With an open heart, she listened to his anxieties and inadequacies, providing consolation and motivation to aid in his self-discovery. But Jack's battle with his inner demons persisted in spite of Emma's best intentions. Unable to completely let go of the anguish and betrayal he had suffered in his last marriage, he was split between his love for Emma and his dread of being crushed again. Jack's relationship with Emma started to suffer as the months went by as a result of his internal anguish. Unable to completely open up to her and reveal the depth of his emotions, he became reserved and distant. Emma felt powerless as she watched the man she loved battle his inner demons, feeling the distance between them widening. Emma made the decision to speak with Jack about his concerns and worries because she was determined to tear down the barriers he had placed around his heart. One evening, she sat him down and gave him her whole being, showing him her love and dedication in the most open and vulnerable way imaginable. With a quiver in her voice, Emma added, "Jack, I understand that you're afraid of being hurt again, but you have to trust me when I say that I would never do anything to hurt you. I love you more than anything in this world, and I would do anything to make you happy." Jack's eyes filled with tears as he heard Emma's sincere remarks. That's when he understood how much she really did love him, and he knew that he couldn't let his past define his happiness in the future. Jack extended his hand to take Emma's hand, filled with a profound sense of love and thanks. He said, "I'm sorry, Emma," in an overly emotional voice. "I realize now that I've been letting my past hold me back from fully embracing our future together. But I promise you, from this day forward, I will do everything in my power to let go of the pain and betrayal of my past and fully commit myself to our relationship." Emma threw her arms around Jack and held him close to her breast, tears welling up in her eyes. They both realized at that same instant that they had surmounted their greatest challenge to date and had come out stronger and closer than before. Ever hopeful and determined, Jack and Emma set about rebuilding their lives together from that day on. They took on life's obstacles head-on, certain that they could overcome anything as long as they had each other. And Jack experienced a wave of calm as they turned to face the future. With Emma at his side, he believed he had at last achieved genuine happiness, and he was eager to see what adventures awaited them both. With their affection serving as their beacon, Jack and Emma were aware that the best was still to come.